In February, as you well know, President Trump issued a national security memorandum titled, quote, America First Investment Policy. And that memorandum directs federal agencies to address outbound investments and targets both entities and sensitive technologies. My bill, the Fight China Act, which I introduced with Senator Cornyn, aligns with this memorandum. And this legislation builds upon my legislation in previous Congresses that authorized OFAC to impose SDN sanctions on CMIC companies. Do you agree that this new bill that Senator Cornyn and I introduced that has an approach that not only authorizes sanctions on the Treasury CMIC list, but that also restricts investment into these clearly identified sensitive technologies, that having that supplement to legislation is important to get at these non-listed projects in China?
Yeah, I haven't seen the bill, but I think the concept you're outlining is in full alignment with the President's executive order, and that is to both look at individual companies they're being invested in, but also specific technologies at the cutting edge in particular, and especially those that have applications that could be contrary to our national security if in the wrong hands, and certainly the Chinese Communist Party would be the wrong hands.
Yeah, I'm concerned that if we rely exclusively on entity lists, that we're going to be missing venture capital and private equity investments in non-public companies in China that nevertheless threaten our national security. If they can go on a list for clarity, great. And I want a red light, green light approach to provide the private sector with clarity and certainty. But I do think we're under-inclusive if we just rely on publicly traded entities on these lists. Let me ask you a question about the border work, Secretary Rubio. How is it, obviously you've had great success, border crossings are down by 95%, 65,000 dangerous illegal immigrants, including 2,288 gang members from Tren de Aragua, MS-13 and other gangs have been arrested. How is it that after only 4 months in office, we've seen President Trump retake operational control of the border and return these criminal migrants to their countries of origins when the previous administration told the American people time and time again, we had to have comprehensive bipartisan immigration reform? Their hands were tied.
Because under the previous administration, it was abundantly clear that if you got into this country, your chances of being able to stay were very high, whether you got in illegally or legally. Under the current administration, it's clear that if you get into this country unlawfully, you're going to be removed the way the law requires. It's entirely incentive-based. And the truth of the matter is what we faced over the last few years is not illegal immigration. We've had illegal immigration throughout our history, and every country in the world faces it. What we've had is mass migration. We've had it here, we've had it in Europe, but we've had it here, a mass migration event, which is dangerous and frankly, nothing humanitarian about mass migration for the migrants who are often abused along the way. And so the message has gotten out that we're no longer going to allow you to stay if you enter illegally through some legal maneuver. Once you arrive here, you say magic words, you immediately kick off the asylum process, and you're going to get to stay for an indeterminate period of time. And once it became clear that that was no longer the case, the incentive to come was dramatically reduced. And as a result, you've seen the border crossing numbers, which have given us the most secure border in our lifetime.
Well, it's pretty clear that it wasn't legislation we needed. We needed a new commander-in-chief and a new Secretary of State, and we appreciate and applaud the great work that you all have done.